November 1963. Washington was silent. Rain was gently tapping against the window outside the Oval Office. President John F. Kennedy had long passed midnight, but he was still at his desk. In front of him sat a thick file with a red seal. Project Heirloom, classified access, level 9. The person who brought the file was not the CIA director. He was a gray-suited, expressionless man Kennedy didn't recognize. He placed the file on the desk and said only one sentence. "Mr. President, some families inherit not wealth, but their destinies." Kennedy couldn't grasp the weight of those words at that moment, but as he turned the pages, his pulse began to quicken. The project heading read, Sociogenetic Behavior Transfer. The words were cold and clinical. Behavioral patterns are transferred from generation to generation through neural resonance memory. Deviation risk leads to cognitive collapse and termination. So the curse wasn't a legend, it was a system, a calculated program. And on the last page, written in black ink, was a line, Subject lineage, Kennedy, 4th generation, not yet born. Someone had predicted the next heir in advance, and he hadn't yet come into the world. That night, Kennedy summoned his brother Robert to the White House. Doors were locked, phone lines were cut. Only the sound of rain filled the room. When Robert read the file, he looked up and quietly said, "Jack, what if this isn't a curse? What if someone coded our destiny?" A shiver ran down Kennedy's spine. The file contained the entire family tree, Patrick, Joseph, John, Robert, and next to each name was the same note, deviation risk, lethal. So every Kennedy would face the same end when they deviated from the designated path. 3 days later, the motorcade drove through the streets of Dallas. The file was still in the president's briefcase. When the gunshots rang out, Project Heirloom's death sequence had begun. After the assassination, the file disappeared. A year later, only a single page was found in DARPA evidence bag number 1742, Project Heirloom Phase 2, Observation Ongoing. Signed below, Dr. Evelyn Hart. Dr. Evelyn Hart was a Harvard-educated neurogeneticist, the only woman working for DARPA in 1959. She was the scientific mind behind Project Heirloom, but no one understood what she had actually built. One sentence in her notes stood out. If memories can resonate in the blood, destiny can be rewritten. She resigned in 1962. She said the project had crossed ethical boundaries. 2 years later, she was found dead in her home in Massachusetts. Official cause, heart failure. But there were no fingerprints at the autopsy. A note was found in the desk drawer. The curse is not a myth, it's a map. Where that map led was never discovered. But when John F. Kennedy Jr.'s plane disappeared over the Atlantic in 1999, the file resurfaced. A strange anomaly had been noted in FBI internal reports. Frequency interference in the seconds before the crash. The same pattern had been found in the 1963 Dallas radio recordings. MIT physicist Dr. Julian Cross examined the data and wrote a horrifying conclusion. The signal matches human DNA patterns. This is not a radio wave, it's a biological command. A similar line appeared in Project Heirloom documents. Signal response, activation through blood bond model, auto-execute. The Kennedys had been coded not only genetically, but electromagnetically. The curse was transmitted not through blood, but through frequency. In 2011, a young archivist named Thomas Reeve found a mislabeled box in an old warehouse in Washington. The label read, Department of Behavioral Sciences, 1954. Inside the box was a single roll of microfilm. The images showed a newborn baby in a glass incubator surrounded by cables. The label visible in the frame, Subject J4, Kennedy Genome Project. Reeves' hand began to tremble. On the baby's wrist was a white tag, JFK4. Only the clicking sound of the projector filled the room. Reeves left the building that night and was never seen again. 4 years later, a tape was found in his attic. Those who listened to the recording heard Reeves whisper, "They didn't inherit the curse. They designed it." The tape ended with a short beeping sound. When decoded in Morse code, a single word emerged: next. In 2023, while Massachusetts State Archives were being digitized, a corrupted file was accidentally opened. Title: Project Heirloom, Appendix 5. It no longer talked about human DNA. The content described consciousness transfer protocols. A repeating phrase appeared between the lines. Subject J4, preserved through neural simulation, physical termination is not the end of existence. The last representative of the lineage hadn't died in 1999. He had simply been transferred. The curse was no longer carried through blood, but through code. Project Heirloom had evolved from genetics to software. The last line read, Scheduled Reload 2043, and just below it a glowing text, Heirloom Active. In an abandoned laboratory in Boston, a single computer turned on at midnight. The system clock showed November 11th, 2043. A single line appeared on the screen. John Fitzgerald Kennedy, memory upload initiated. A flash burst. An old family photo on the wall lit up. The Kennedy family was smiling at a picnic. Fresh handwriting appeared in the corner. The curse never ends. It only changes form. The screen went dark. The final line appeared. Heirloom version 2.0. Upload complete. Some legacies are written in blood. Others are coded into our very existence. The Kennedy curse wasn't just history. It was a blueprint, a system designed not to end, but to repeat. If this story made you question what destiny really means, subscribe. Because the next chapter in history might already be written in code. And the question isn't if it will return,